Now, to close the show, I want to talk a little bit about something that's important to me, and that is giving back. Having been very tired and emotionally drawn through several processes with you, I am going to try really hard to keep it together. So I will actually be pulling hair out of the back of my head or something. But I think it's important to note that out of life, you get what you give, period. It always comes back. You know the old adage, when you give, you get back tenfold. My life is literally, it parallels that so much, because when I started working with charities, very young, I never went into any charity. We work with 9 major charities, and there's not a single one that I went into with the whole what's in it for me attitude. All of them have very personal stories that I won't share today with you, reasons why I did in fact work with them. But each of them, I would go in with this attitude of I want to help, and then every time I would do something, it would seem like I would get something bigger that was more valuable. And so, of course, I would try to do more, and it would come back to me. And I think there's a level of guilt that comes with that, too, because you feel like I'm gaining more than I'm actually giving. So that is something that you have to understand. This is one of my very favorite quotes. When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would have not a single bit of talent left. Ooh, and I could say I used everything you gave me. I love that, because you can see I work really fast, really hard. I think I'm in a rush to make sure I don't miss anything. I don't want to miss anything at all. And so I tend to be extremely passionate. I think people like me mostly get locked up, and they find them in institutions a lot, but I don't think they can catch me. I'm pretty convinced. So I am truly convinced that we each have our own individual talents. I want to make sure everybody here and in the entire world understands I do not have natural photography talent. Absolutely not. My son, my 13-year-old son does. His work is breathtaking. Since he's been 11, he's been shooting. I struggled. I had to copy people and try to emulate what they were doing over and over and over. And man, I watch some of these shooters that come up and just pick up cameras, and I get so angry that I see these 18-year-olds that create these breathtaking images. And man, I couldn't do that. So it's not natural to me. This is not natural talent. This is years of mechanical processing and understanding and educating myself. So it does not have to be a natural talent. If you have a passion for it, it's good enough. That passion can drive you to educate yourself and get there. So talent to me is it's 50% gift and 50% work. It comes from somewhere, but you have to earn it too. It's not free. It never comes free. So in order to work and find a charity that you want to work with, you have to find something that means something to you. You have to find something that is personal to you. Saying you want to be charitable is one thing. Going through the work is another thing, and it does take a little bit of time. So you want to find something that's important. So today I wanted to share one of the charities that I work with. And this one, of course, is very, very important to me. I'm very privileged to be able to share this message with you, because Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is an organization that I co-founded myself and a mother 7 years ago. Now the situation was that a family contacted our studio, and I was in a session, and I was actually interrupted, which is pretty rare. And my receptionist said there was a gentleman on the phone who seemed very upset, and his son was in the hospital, and they needed you to come take pictures. They had seen your work in the hospital, and they wanted you to come take pictures. And of course, I told her, I said, I can't come tonight, but I could be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever it takes. I had some plans with my children that I wasn't going to break. And I followed her back to the front to listen to the conversation. So she picked up the phone and she started to explain that. And all of a sudden she said, wait. And she covered the phone and she said, tomorrow's going to be too late. He's not going to be here. You have to go tonight. So of course, when I heard that, that changed everything. I called my family and told them that I could not come home. And there were 4 of us that got together, including Helen and Aaron out there, wherever you are, and Chantel, and we got things together and started to head to the hospital. Now understand, this is not something I'd ever done before in this pretense. I'd been to the hospital, photographed preemies for the hospital, things like that, but this was something where I knew the outcome. We got to the hospital, and I met Mike Haggard first and Cheryl. When I was brought into the room, Cheryl was holding Maddox. This is baby Maddox. And Mike was the one speaking to me. Cheryl was very upset, you can imagine. They had found that at 10 days old, Maddox had a condition that was incompatible with life, and they would have to take him off life support. At that time, Cheryl was pretty upset and was not able to speak. But Mike came to me and he said, you know, we've seen your work all over the hospital. My wife absolutely loves it. This is our 4th child. This is our 2nd son. And more than anything in the world, we want portraits of him because we have portraits of our other children. And we see this and we want what you have in this hospital. And I said, absolutely no problem. And he said, but I have a favor to ask you. And I, of course, said, anything you want, of course. And he looked at me and he said, well, more than anything in the world, my wife wants a portrait of her holding her son, just skin on skin, like the ones in the hospital, no tubes, no wires, nothing attached to him. And he said, so would you consider waiting until he passes away? And would you capture that image? Now, of course, you can imagine when somebody says that to you, it was like a wrecking ball went through my heart. I was like, no, I can't do that. I mean, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I'm like, I can't do that. And of course, my heart kicked in and I said, absolutely, I would have no problem with that. So we went into a room. They took us into a small closet area. It was like a very small room, which at the time I didn't realize that is where they take families to say goodbye to their children. We went into this room and we set it up and we put up a background and the little studio strobes and things. And these images, the first images, Maddox was actually hooked to so many things. There was a nurse actually breathing for him. She was squeezing a little ball so that he could continue to breathe while this series was taken. And during this session, of course, you can imagine as a photographer, it hit me so hard as I was photographing. I thought, I kept thinking, this is it. These are the last pictures, and I don't want to miss anything. So I photographed the hands and the feet and the face and the nose and the lips and the ears and every single facet of that child. I wanted to make sure they would have record. And as I got closer to being done, I kept panicking, thinking, just one more, don't miss anything. This is it. And we tried, I tried so hard to capture everything, but there was a point where I knew that I had everything that I could possibly capture. And at that point, I said, I'm done, and I stepped up, and we all stepped out of the room, and we left, and we went and sat down. Now, I don't think a word was spoken for the 45 minutes that it took for Maddox to pass away. When the nurse came out, the first thing I saw with her is her face was so swollen. She had been crying so hard. And you can imagine, I looked at her and I thought, I always thought that that job was the greatest job in the world, to actually be a maternity nurse, to actually be in the labor and delivery department. And it was the first time seeing this total stranger in so much pain that I realized how hard her job must be sometimes. So she came in and told us that he had passed and that we could come in. And when I came into the room, the second time, so different. At this point, Mike was very upset, and Cheryl was completely at peace. In fact, when I walked in the image, she was holding him skin on skin. She had a tube top, skin on skin, and he looked like a perfect sleeping angel. He was just this beautiful little baby. So we did start the session over again. Now, he had passed away. We did the hands and the feet, but this time she could touch him and move him and kiss him and love him. And it was probably one of the most surreal, beautiful things that I had ever been through in my life. From that session, you can imagine, we left it late in the middle of the night. I went home, and I'll never forget it because I went home and I have 4 children. Sorry, hang on. And I went to each of their rooms and I picked each of them up and gave them each a hug. And I fell asleep in my daughter's bed, the youngest daughter. And I don't even know when I fell asleep, but I remember waking up that morning and being so overwhelmed. I'd never felt so heavy in my life. Nothing ever shut me down, but it was so heavy that I couldn't even go to work. I've never canceled a day of work for anything. And I called the staff and I said that I was not going to be able to come in. And I went and I started looking at the images. Now, the interesting thing is that night they were the most beautiful things I'd ever created in my life. But the stark reality of what I had photographed that day when I went back and in the morning and looked at them, Maddox, when he was covered with the tubes and wires, and then once he had been taken off and all of the life had gone out of him, you could see where the blood was pooling at the bottom of his body, and his body was a very strong color, orangish green, and he just did not look as healthy as it did that evening. And so I was a little overwhelmed, thinking, I can't give this to these folks. I need to do something better. So I contacted a great friend of mine, Dave Junion, and explained the situation, and I sent them to him, and he created one of the most beautiful slideshows I've ever seen, and he helped us do the artwork to take them to the level that we needed them to be. Now this family came in as soon as they got done. In fact, the interesting thing is she called me. She lost her son in the middle of the night. She called me at 9 o'clock the next morning. I had given her my cell number, and she called me and said, "Are they ready yet?" I mean, she was so excited to have something that she just wanted to see if they're ready. And I said, "Not yet." I explained to her what I was going to do, and she literally called me every single day, probably twice a day, saying, "Are they done yet? Are they done yet?" She was so desperate to see them, and finally we got them done. She came to my studio, and we wanted to treat this just like a regular sales session. We wanted her to come in and have the slideshow, put to music. We knew it was going to be very private. We set it up so that they could click the button and start the show, and we could leave the room. And we also knew that I was not going to charge her anything. There was no way I was going to be able to charge this family for this work. And so I had turned to the sales associate, and I had said, "Okay, let them see the show as long as they want, and then when they open the door, go in there and whatever they want, go ahead and just take the order. They're not going to pay for it." So we started the slideshow, and I waited outside the door, and I heard it end, and then I heard it start again. And it was about the third or fourth time that it started to play that I walked away. And it took about an hour and a half. They watched that show over and over and over. And they finally opened the door, and when she opened the door, she literally came out of the room with totally tear-covered face, and she physically grabbed me, and she pulled back, and she said, "Do you know what you've done for me?" And of course, it startled me. I was actually very concerned. I panicked a little bit, and she said, "You have given me my son." Of course, I understood where she was, what she was feeling, and how powerful, how important these images really were. So the sales associate went in and sat down with her, and they started to order. Now this took hours. I finally came in a couple hours later, and the associate, Erin, looked up at me, and she gave me the face of, "Oh my gosh." And of course, I'm like, what, I didn't want to say anything. We're trying to be professional. And she literally taps the computer monitor, and this bill was around a little over $6,000. Cheryl, in her grief, wanted to purchase all of these big prints and have all of these images. And I knew that this is not a fair time to be selling portraits or even showing portraits. And I had also, in my mind, had made the decision that I was not going to charge. And so that was the beginning of this relationship. Now I want to quickly fast forward because I want to get to the important part. Not even 4 weeks later, I received a phone call on my cell phone, and it was a client of mine, a very good client of mine, and she said, "My sister has had a baby, and the baby is not going to survive, but my sister does not know it." And she said, "I don't care what it costs. I want you to come down, and I want you to photograph this baby. I don't care what I have to pay for it." And of course, I literally looked up and thought, what is going on? I mean, I made it like 20 years here. Why are we doing this? But we got in the car and we headed down there. Now, the difference between this little baby and Maddox is Mom and Dad did not know he was not going to survive. They had not been told yet, and he could not be moved. And the whole time I was photographing him, of course I was not going to charge anything, but the whole time I was photographing him, I kept thinking, if they would only let me come back when he passes away, I could let them hold him and touch him and kiss him and be near him. He could not be moved. He was completely covered. And so it was really very hard for us, little Daniel, for us to photograph him because I felt like I was cheating that client. And it was that night that Cheryl called me, and she was waiting for her images, and we had created a relationship. And I explained to her, I said, it's the weirdest thing, but believe it or not, I've met another family who has lost a son, and would you consider calling them? And just because you've been through this, it might be a good thing. And, we had a conversation. And Cheryl, I started telling her how guilty I felt that I couldn't give them what I had given her, that I couldn't say when he passes away. And she started telling me how guilty she felt that so many other babies in the hospital had passed, and she had these beautiful portraits, and nobody had anything. These people were so blindsided, they literally walked away with nothing. And so that is the conversation we had. And she said, it was her that said it, she said, what if we started an organization where professional photographers could provide portraits for families who were going to lose babies? And those were the exact words that launched this entire organization. Now, to tell you a little bit about it, our photographers provide all of the session, their time, and the edited images completely for free. No money exchanges hands. This is a gift from photographers to them. We do have tremendous support. If you go to nowilaymedowntosleep.org, we have massive forum this site has over 4 million hits a month. It is worldwide. We currently are in 10 countries. 40 countries with 10,000 members. So, but it's not enough. We need so many more people to provide this service. As far as I'm concerned, people come to me all the time and they say, there's just no way I could do this. It's just too overwhelming. I'm too emotional. Come on, you're talking to the most emotional person in the world. And I tell them, you know what? I've done more sessions than I will ever say the number anymore, because frankly, it's impossible for me to believe that I have watched that many babies pass away. And there's never been a session that I've done that I didn't cry the entire way through. I literally cried the entire time. Crying is different than snorting and sniffling and falling apart, by the way. It's tears flow, but I keep it together for the session. But it's never been that way. So when people tell me that they're going to cry, I tell them good, because it's important that you connect. I would be more worried if you didn't cry than if you did. And I hear from parents all the time that I work with, when they come to see the images or we deliver them, they say, you know, the one thing I remembered is you were crying and you felt like you were there, that my baby mattered. So as far as I'm concerned, these people that do this are heroes. They are literally sacrificing. Do you remember that time we talked about? They're giving up a lot of it to do this. And sadly, they're burning out. We have literally hundreds of hospitals who desperately want us. When we first started this, we couldn't get in a hospital. Now we can't possibly service them all. There are families every day going without this service that know about it, they want it so bad, and we have to turn them away because we do not have the support to do it. There are some heroes out there that literally take every session. They'll take 10 sessions a week, and they're burning out, and we need to get them help. And if I could get more photographers, we could stop that, because in most cities, if you had 10 people per hospital, you'd only have to do one session a month, if that. But some hospitals, we have one person doing 20 sessions a month, and it's every day, every other day. So we're really desperately looking for your help. We have the support, we have training. We have trainers all over the United States and outside of the United States that are training. I will be flying and doing some in the UK this year. We want to make sure you guys are ready for this, and you can get the support that you need. People always say that they can't do it, and this is my honest answer. You can't change what's happening to these people. Whether we choose to do this or not, they are going to lose their child. But what we can do is we can change the way that they heal for the rest of their lives. I know without a doubt these families look at these images over and over and over, and it means the world to them. Now, we are always looking for funding options for this event, and we have a wonderful charity model search, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because I have something special I want to share with you. The Charity Model Search is a program that you can join. It's actually ending now, but very soon, but next year you can join it. There's lots of prizes, and it gives us the ability to have a contest where we look for North America's cutest child, and all of the proceeds actually go to the organization. The 2009 model search raised $164,000. This money keeps this organization alive. It is a fully staffed executive director on down to a receptionist. They have 5 to 7 employees at any time. It is an expensive, it is an expensive process to keep it staffed, but it's a critical process. There's no way we could shut this down. It has serviced thousands, literally tens of thousands of babies that have been serviced with this program. So if you have questions, we would certainly love to help you and would love to work with you. Let me back it up here. We would love to work with you. Again, it's nowilaymedowntosleep.org. We're here for you. We want you to be a part of this. We will train you, and we will make sure that it happens. Now, what I wanted to do is, instead of me telling you how important this is, I thought we could hear from some of the parents and let you know how important they think this work is. So we're going to go ahead and show you a little video now.
You may not want these now, but you will probably want them at some point in your life.
We're always able to turn and look at those photos, see what it was like to be together in a happier time.
I feel my baby's home. She's home. I see her every day.
This is your heritage. You're going to want these pictures someday.
Through such tragedy, there definitely was something positive that could come about. Everything was perfectly normal until she went into labor, and when her water broke is when we knew something wasn't right.
My first 2, it was easy. I had my first son. It was a total easy pregnancy. My daughter came 18 and a half months later, so that was a really easy delivery. So when we went in, we just assumed it would be really easy and we'd be home in a day and everything would be fine.
Back in 2007, I found out I was pregnant. It was actually an unexpected pregnancy. So overall, the pregnancy seemed normal, but I was more concerned with just becoming a single mom and how my life was going to be and how it was going to adjust.
Actually, the pregnancy was perfectly normal. There was a little bit of concern towards the end about maybe Liam being a little bit bigger than anybody was expecting, but he, upon further check, everything went fine.
Everything was going fine. I mean, everything, heartbeat was fine, lungs, kidneys, she was growing perfectly.
Taylor was our third child, and you know, she was with us for 25 days. We pretty much spent every day with her when she was alive.
Finally, after 2 weeks, we decided that the future was not going to be good for her, so we decided to pull life support, and that took another 2 weeks, 14 days. So that was really painful to watch.
They had to deliver me when he was only 25 weeks along, and he was born weighing 1 pound, 6 ounces at birth.
Anna progressed very quickly, and when they came back and they checked it again about a half hour later, they couldn't find his heart rate separate, so they immediately did a emergency C-section, and he wasn't breathing right on his own then, and so it was some sort of compressed cord situation that occurred during the delivery itself.
March 29, 2011, I went into the doctors and they told me that her heart had stopped and my world came down.
I held him and he hung on, and you know, he just kept was an up and down thing, and he held on, and the doctors were talking to me about taking him off life support, and I wasn't ready. I just thought, he's fighting, we're gonna see what happens. But by the next morning, it was pretty clear that he wasn't gonna get better, and he was suffering, and we were losing him.
We heard about it actually through several different places almost simultaneously. It was all through the hospital because we were there. Our nurses told us about Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. They gave us the brochure, and then we heard about it through the chaplaincy program there. I was amazed that there was even this group of people out there doing something like this.
I think my first reaction was, why do we need that right now? Like, it was a really traumatic day. It was actually the day we decided to put her on life support. They had called her in. The hospital had asked us if we wanted that, and we said yes, and they said this would be the best time because after that you're not going to want pictures of what she's going to look like.
The nurse was somebody I trusted immensely, but my first reaction was actually like, I don't want to do that. That just sounds morbid, that doesn't sound right. And it's such a horrible moment in your life that is not something you want to photograph originally. But the crazy thing is that the nurse was actually the nurse for Cheryl Hager back a couple of years earlier. So that was when the whole organization started, and he came to me, literally, the nurse did, in tears, saying, this is your heritage, you're gonna want these pictures someday. So he talked me into it, and yeah, I was so glad that he did.
It's something that I wanted to look at right away. You know, nowadays we're so used to seeing the instant gratification of looking at a photo, and so I looked at him, but it was one of those things that I looked through them right away. I thought, man, these are amazing, and I don't want to look at them again for a really long time, because they do carry a lot of emotion around them. You know why they were taken, what they were taken for.
Well, we looked at them right away because we had to have a service and we needed pictures. Well, we wanted pictures for the service. We wanted people to see that, yes, we had a daughter and she was beautiful and she was perfect, and we wanted to share her with the world. At the hospital, we didn't, but we wanted people to know that she was beautiful. So we looked at them pretty much the day we got them, and it was hard. It was really hard because we had just lost her, but we were beyond grateful to have it.
Now they mean everything. The photographer was amazing. She came out and she actually took pictures of him before we took him off life support and after he had passed. And it was very emotional. But she was wonderful. She actually put together a little video. You know, she put some of the pictures to music together in time for his memorial service just a couple of days later. And then it was probably, you know, it could have been 3-4 weeks before I got the actual pictures from her. And I remember when I first opened them to look at them, it was just, yeah, it was really, really hard at first.
It's helped me a lot because my baby exists, you know, she's right there. She's in the pictures, and friends, family that go over my house, you know, this is my baby. You know, she lived. She was here with me. I carried her, and here she is.
The short life of our daughter Taylor was something that forever changed my wife Amber and I's life. You know, completely changed us. It was the most difficult situation that I think anybody could ever be faced with. But out of that, I think we've became stronger in our relationship.
Taylor's pictures are throughout our house, but I also have them by the rocker in my bedroom. I have every picture that Angela gave us, and they're in a book, and I look at them just different times when I'm feeling sad or when I miss her, or just different times. And I just love looking at them because I can remember, oh, her nose was like this, and I remember her holding my hand like this, and it's priceless. It is priceless to have that.
I would tell her that the gift that she gave to us is an amazing thing. Just simply the gift of her time and her energy and her professional skill to give to somebody else is not something that any of us have taken lightly. We love the photos, we love what they've done for us. We really appreciate that she took the time away from her family, because if we know nothing else, we know how valuable that is.
It's easy to just think this was something that was so terrible it couldn't possibly have happened. Even in your own mind, sometimes you think like that. And it's so comforting to see a picture of him and say, yeah, I am a mom, and he is my son, and he was here.
Well, thank you guys for letting me share that. I know that's very emotional, but you can imagine there are thousands and thousands of families out there who have been serviced by people just like you. People who are willing to get up and go to a hospital at all hours of the day and night, and to take the time and to capture those images and to give those families the literal only connection they have to their child. These are the only tangible items, and believe me, they treasure them like nothing. So with that being said, I don't want to leave you all on a sad note. I want you to understand how really beautiful this really is. As I said, we can't change what's happening, but we can literally change the way that they heal for the rest of their lives. So I thank you for letting me share that. I promise tomorrow we'll stay way on an upbeat, and I want you all to smile very big right now, because you're all very blessed to be here, to have your families and the people that you love, and I think it's time to go.
Wow. Sandy, I just want to let you know that so many people on the internet have either know people who have been involved in Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, or want to volunteer, or that has just given them ideas about what they can do for people that they know who are in the hospital right now, not even as part of that organization. So what an amazing thing that we are teaching photographers around the world, but now that we're impacting families around the world. So thank you.
Well, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to have a voice this strong. I mean, you can imagine, I just sent a message to Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep saying, get ready for it. We're taking over the world. So thank you, really and truly. This is a big deal. You, Creative Live, has now just given probably thousands more families the opportunity, and that is huge. So thank you.
And now I have the chills and I'm crying. So let's give a round of applause to Sandy Butch.
Thank you, thank you. Thank all of you guys. You're the heroes, honestly. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to have a few announcements. And because we know you have so many questions to ask Sandy, so we're going to actually start pre-show banter tomorrow morning, 20 minutes early. So we're going to do, or 20 minutes before 9 o'clock. So 8:40 Pacific time. we're going to come in and sit down and we're going to ask Sandy some of your questions. So that'll be our banter tomorrow morning.